a quote by Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was an escaped slave who, when in the North and safety, wrote about his experiences as a slave. In his somewhat famous quote, Douglass states, "Any attempt now to separate freedom of the slave from the victory of the government, any attempt to secure peace to the whites while leaving the blacks in chains will be labor lost." What does this quote mean, and how should we interpret it? I will talk about all of this in a few seconds. When saying this quote, I believe Douglass was trying to prove his point that saying the war was no longer about preserving the Union, rather it was about the emancipation of the black slaves in the South, and any attempt on the Union's part to win the war without emancipating the slaves would be futile. Many historians have analyzed this quote, and it has caused a lot of differing views on the subject of could the American Civil War have ended without the emancipation of slaves? I don't believe the Civil War could have ended without the emancipation of the slaves, and there are many reasons for this. I will talk about all of these reasons in a few seconds. Before giving information on the topic at hand, you need to know background information. In the beginning of the war, the South, or the Confederacy, was defeating the Union horribly on the battlefield. This was due partially to the fact that the South had knowledge of the surrounding terrain and could better hide themselves from ambush or could better retreat to cover themselves from Union fire. But the fact that the South was winning was due mostly to the fact that they had more to fight for, as they were defending their homeland and their way of life, whilst the Union soldiers were fighting to preserve the Union, and this was a cause that they either did not know of or did not believe in. Thus, the South had more motivation to fight, and their soldiers fought harder. Now, since you know the backstory, I can finally talk about the reason I don't think the Civil War could have ended without the emancipation of slaves. The Emancipation Proclamation, which was issued in 1863, was unpopular with many Union soldiers. Mass desertions were reported in the Union Army after the troops learned of this act. However, the act also did give some Union soldiers more motivation to fight, as many were abolitionists. And because the Union soldiers now had more to fight, combined with their more modern technology for the time and their increased army size, this eventually led to their victory in the American Civil War. Now, there is another small reason that the emancipation of slaves helped the Union win the Civil War, and I don't think the Union could have won without it. Since the Emancipation Proclamation gave free blacks the rights to fight in the Union Army, thus the Union Army had the potential to gain more soldiers, rather than if blacks fighting as soldiers was prohibited, the Union may not have had enough soldiers to fight the war. In short, I don't believe the American Civil War could have ended without the emancipation of slaves, as without it the Union troops would have no cause to fight for, and without emancipation the Union would not have many soldiers to fight with. And that's the way the radicals think. Thank you for watching, and have a radical day.